Welcome to Diary of an Ex-Ho. I'm Sherry Hardman. I'll be your ex-ho. And today's guest is Brandon Valentine. So sit back, enjoy the episode, and remember the old saying, always a bridesmaid when you're a hoe. All right, so we're gonna do our thing, and I just started adding something, because I think I told you this, that I feel like it's just been starting out too boring. So I'm adding just a little game.
Oh,
But we're going super simple
okay.
just to start off because I haven't warned everybody that we're going to do this, and I haven't really prepared anything. So I'm going as easy as possible. So
All right. Whatever works.
we're just gonna go ahead and start. We're gonna do some Mary Shag Kill.
All right.
Can't get any easier than that. So let me share my screen. Can we see that?
There we go. Now it just popped up. Yep.
Okay.
I can see it.
All right, Mary one, Shag one, Kill one.
Okay.
Let's see. I think all these people are alive. Yeah, because
They're dead. That gets weird.
if they're dead, then we're playing it like they're alive, but it doesn't matter on this one.
Okay.
I don't think. No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. All right. You got Fortune Feimster or Feimster, Jim Gaffigan, and Amy Schumer.
See, this is an interesting one. I mean, it's a tough one. I mean, Jim Gaffigan because because I could have great conversations with him, and I think he would just be fun to talk to. I guess Shag Amy Schumer because I mean, she likes men, and Fortune I would have to kill just because I mean, I feel like she wouldn't be into that, so that would just make it weird.
I know that almost makes it a hate crime, so I didn't really think of that, but
it does. But it's one of those that, like, either way, I mean, killer or Shag, I mean, either way, I feel is a hate crime on that one. So
okay, well that was easy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't make you take off your clothes and put on a dildo or anything,
Not this time. You have though.
I mean, no.
It has happened. So
that has happened.
Yeah. In fact, I'm pretty sure the very last show I did before COVID shut the world down was your show, and I had a dildo on my forehead saying "sit on my face and tell me that you love me." So with my shirt off.
That's true. Now this was my game show shares unmentionables for those watching that don't know this, but you are tied for my most enthusiastic player of all time.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So
I had fun. I had a blast with it. It was great.
It is a fun game.
I got to let my freak fly, and I don't get to do that very often anymore.
Right. And okay, we're going to let it fly today. So do you want to just fly it or straight out the get-go, or do you want to little foreplay first?
I mean, it's up to you. I mean, I'm kind of either way. I mean, I like a little foreplay, but I mean, I'm a guy. I can just jump right into it too.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's just jump into it. So what's your deal? Sexual deal? Like, what is it?
It's hard to say because I mean, the thing is I mean, I've been married to a woman for 23 years. But when I was younger, I mean, I guess you would consider it bi. I dated men and women. But I say that, but I've never gone all the way with a guy. It was one of those things by the time before that would have happened, I ended up with my wife and we got married. So, because we got married when I was 24. But, and actually what a lot of people don't know too is my wife was actually my first kiss when I was 13. So we dated when I was 13 and she was 14. And then we kind of went our separate ways and ran into each other years later and ended up getting married and having kids, and we're 23 years in. So
wow, that's interesting. Okay, so are you guys exclusive or?
Yes. Yeah, we are exclusive. It's one of those things that's weird. We both have very different paths after we stopped, seeing each other when we were 13 and 14. She went down a path of I'm the third guy she's ever slept with.
Wow.
So, and on my side, I've done more than that in one night.
Different direction.
So I went a different direction than her. I remember when we first started dating, as we were adults, me, her, and one of my best friends were doing something like just sitting around talking one night, and the question of the number came up.
Uh-huh.
And I was like 17. And my best friend just about fell out of the chair laughing. He's like, that was a bad week. And I'm like, shut up. I was trying to like make her not feel so bad. But
Right.
so it's we definitely went different ways, but we are definitely monogamous now. So
Okay. I don't know why, but I always had this idea that you guys were swingers. I don't know why.
I don't know. I've had a few people, and I think it's more my personality than hers
I
because
think that's I think
I'm you know me, I'm very flirtatious when I talk. I'm just that's the way I am, and people think that that would be kind of the way it goes. And I have, and I'll be honest, like right off the bat, I have made mistakes in our marriage. There was a time, probably when you first started getting into comedy, when me and her were actually separated for a
mm,
short period because I'm an asshole. I mean, it's that simple. But no, so that might be what it was. So there
okay,
was
and
a
I and
time
I
there
and
where I
I do want
was, yeah.
I do want to clarify for like uh I never heard anything or you never said anything, just in my head for some reason. I just always kind of thought that maybe that was the case,
Yeah,
but
I think it's more
okay.
just my personality.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
You do come across as a big old whore, but that's
Yeah, I do. That's kind of why we're doing this show, Diary of an XO, kind of fit me. So, I mean,
yeah. Yeah, you're preaching to the choir, exactly. So, um, all right. So when you were growing up, were your parents together?
yeah, my parents are actually still together.
Are
My
they?
parents, they're going on 60 something, 62,
Wow.
63 years, 63. They were married in 1960, so 63 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's unusual.
Hmm.
Were they were they like affectionate with each other? Like could you tell that they
I
liked
mean,
each other, you know?
kind of, but I mean, in that like, I mean, 1960s vibe where, I mean, they didn't really show a lot of affection at all, but they were loud and the
Oh,
walls were thin. So that's
yeah.
why a lot of people are, I sleep with a radio. Even to this day, I sleep with noise on because my bedroom was right next to theirs growing up.
I know that is a noise that you can never unhear.
No, no, not at all.
Yeah, I know about that. Um, okay. So did they were they like affectionate with you guys? Were there like hugs and kisses and stuff? Or
Not that I really remember, but it's one of those things. I mean, I make jokes about this in my comedy. I am the youngest of six kids. Um, and by the time I came around, I'm the age I am now is the age my dad was when I was born.
wow,
So my dad was 45 when I was born. So my parents are a lot older than most of my friends. In fact, my dad is older than my wife's grandfather. And my oldest brother is the same age as her mom.
wow.
And my wife's actually a year older than me. So there's a huge age gap. Like when I do the comedy and everyone always asks where I come up with this, their truth. There's basis and truth in all those because my family is this weird. My parents had four kids, stopped, waited 11 years, suddenly decided they wanted two more. And then
Huh.
I came along. So my parents, I barely noticed them. I was more raised by my sister. And I have very few memories of my parents doing anything with me. My best friend's dad taught me how to play baseball because my dad didn't. My older brother taught me how to fish because my dad never did anything like that. I never did camping with my parents. I never did anything like that. So I don't remember anything really at all of, that whole hugs, kisses, anything. Like never went to any of my sports, never went to any of my baseball games, never saw me play a sport, nothing, nothing. So it's
Wow.
kind of I was where we talk about like the 80s latchkey kid, I was the like definition of that, where they just
Right.
never paid attention. Like I have the joke about, the kids and how you treat them differently when they go to homecoming. And I always make the joke, yeah, when I finally just went to homecoming, I'm like, Dad, can I go to homecoming? And he just looked at me and said, who the fuck are you? I mean, That's kind of how I felt as a kid. I mean,
Right.
I didn't exist.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes me sad, feel sad for you, like a little bit. The little you, you know. I mean,
It was
you're fine, but yeah, that's
it
there.
was interesting.
Well, there was a lot of just raising ourselves when we were
Hmm.
younger. There was like, I remember my mom, would give us instructions on how to put the dinner in the oven or whatever from work. I'll throw this, and if we were home, we'd do it, but we were often just out doing our own thing. Nobody knew where the hell we were.
And there was no cell phones, no nothing like that, no pagers, no nothing for them to get a hold of you. It was just when the street lights turned on, you better be home.
Right.
That that was it. And I mean, kids nowadays don't really get that, but that was our rule. When the street lights turned on, be home.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then I saw that other thing, I've seen that thing where they're like talking about kids drinking out of a hose, and then they say,
Mhm.
didn't you guys have like sinks or whatever? And the one girl's like, who wants to tell them? Like, we weren't allowed in the house. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if your parents were ever like that, but it'd be
Nope.
like, we're cleaning the house, nobody's coming in.
Yeah. And we'd go out, and I mean, I can remember going out on my bike and just taking off. Like as soon as I woke up, I was out on my bike, gone,
Uh-huh.
and just made sure I was back before the street lights turned off, and just grab like a sandwich and take it with me. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I cooked. I started cooking. I still have a cookbook that my mom gave me when I was like 9, a Betty Crocker cookbook that I learned how to cook from that I
uh,
still use.
was that the red and white cover one?
Yep. Yep.
All right, so now we're gonna like kind of go in. This is what I like to what I call like your first sexual awakening. Like when you first kind of realize, wait a minute, there's something going on in this world that I didn't really realize was going on. Do you remember some of those moments or?
Kind of, but this one gets weird for me too. Just because like you haven't figured out, I've already had a weird childhood. Um, I was actually 4 when my grandmother caught me with the neighbor girl, and she was telling me what to do.
How old was she?
She was the same age as me.
Oh,
So we pretty much have the idea that she was probably molested at some point. Um, but yeah, one of the neighbor girls, I was 4 when my grandmother caught me messing around with her, and it makes me wonder if that's why I still like being bossed around in the bedroom is because she was telling me how to do it then. But I mean, so that was weird for me because I mean, at 4 years old, I was already and I know for a fact, I mean, in my brain, things that I remember, that wasn't the only time. There was
right.
other times it just happened to me. That was when we were caught. But
How
so
did your
for
how did
me,
your grandma react to that?
um, pretty much just told her to go home and like told me to go like take a bath,
Yeah.
and then said something to my parents about it, and then it was just kind of that was it. But it's weird too because in my family, sex wasn't a taboo topic, which is weird because I grew up Mormon. So you would think it would
Oh,
be, but it wasn't. So we would talk about it all the time. And I think part of it was is my brothers and sisters were obviously sexually active by the time I was born because I have like the joke I make about the niece and nephew that are the 2 nieces that are supposed to be older than me. That's a true story. I'm
mhm.
supposed to have 2 nieces that were put up for adoption that are older than I am. So there was talk like I said, I was raised more by my brothers and sisters. So sex was an open topic where we talked about like I can remember as I was growing up and before I really started getting sexually active, like truly sexually active in my teens, my sister was always like, was famous for telling me, if they go down on you, you better go down on them. It's a tit for tat thing. You they give it to you, you give it to them. And that's kind of how I was raised with that whole idea of the opposite of what we saw in movies. Like you grew up,
Right.
you're a little bit just a little older than me, but in the movies that we saw in the 70s, 80s, and everything like that, it was always the guy was dominant. The guy said what was done. I mean, half the things, I mean, I've listened to a couple of episodes and you've talked about some of the episodes, some of the movies that, you go back and watch from the 80s and you're like, yeah, and you go back and watch now and you're like, that's kind of problematic. I
Yeah.
mean, that that yeah, but back then they made it seem like it was good. But being raised basically by, my sister, I was very well pushed in my head, like you make sure she gets hers. If you're with a woman, she gets hers. So, and that was just kind of the way, you know. But it
Mm-hmm.
was weird having my sexual awakening so young. But yeah.
Okay. Uh, what about celebrity crushes? Did you have those when you were coming up?
Well, of course. I mean, you always have those. I mean, for me, it was I mean, obviously, Alyssa Milano, Leah Remini, her character in Who's the Boss was as, you know, Sam's best friend, even though I think it was only like 2 episodes, but she really stuck a chord with me. Um, and then as I got older, it was more like a Gina Gershon, stuff like that. I wanted the more like in your face girl that's gonna kick your ass and you're gonna like it. So
You're having a
now this,
weird sound issue right now. I don't know if
yeah,
it's your
I think
internet
it's
or,
okay. I figured it.
but we could hear you. So it
Okay,
just distorted a
my
little.
phones were on the table, and every once in a while they the signal gets weird. But yeah, so as I got older with stuff like Gina Gershon, Jennifer Tilly, stuff like that. Um, Corey Haim was one that I know it's a weird one for me to say, but that was one for me. Um, but yeah, that was kind of the main ones for me.
So you, everyone that you mentioned pretty much has dark hair.
Yeah, I've always been, which is really weird. I've always liked dark hair or redheads, but for the most part, it's been dark hair.
Hmm. Okay. Um, what's your definition of amazing sex?
My definition of amazing sex is that the sex where neither one of you can get up afterwards, where you're done and you're spent, like fully spent, and then you just lay there and tangled up in each other and fall asleep. That's kind of my idea, where you're both just totally spent and you both, you know, had great sex.
That sounds good. How do you feel about porn?
I watch it,
What are
definitely.
your
Yeah.
go-to categories?
Depends on who I'm with. If it's me, my wife, she really she likes lesbian porn is what she likes to watch. Um, so that's if it's me and her, that's usually what we'll watch. Um, I think it's because she doesn't want to be reminded of how small my penis is, so she doesn't want to see any others on screen. So, so I had to throw it in there. But the other for me, if it's me, it's usually threesome, bisexual, male, male, female. So
Interesting. Mine are weird, like weird. Like I don't even say what mine are because mine are weird. Um, mainstream movie scene, back to movies that you found erotic. At the time, we will say we've already discussed it might be problematic, but back then,
it's actually one that's been mentioned. As I said, I went back and listened to all the episodes. It's been mentioned, I think, 3 times now. Bound. Like I said, two of my crushes were Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon, and that scene, if you haven't gone and watched it yet,
I did. I went and watched it. Yeah.
that scene was, I mean, that did it for me as a teenager. I had the VHS and pretty much had it saved at that point. Um, but I mean, it's also, you know, a great movie. I love the movie. It's a good movie. Everything else, but that scene, that was the one that, yeah,
Yeah,
that was it for
that's
me.
funny because it just kept coming up. I'm like, I never heard of it. I have to watch it now. It's research, right?
Yep. I mean, like I said, that was the one I had the VHS and just I would watch that scene over and over again.
All right. Well, how's your body image?
Right now, horrible. Um, as in my teens, I was like when I graduated high school, I was 150 pounds. Washboard stomach. I mean, I rode bikes. I worked out constantly. Major knee injuries over the years, you know, really took it out on me. As you know, about 2 years ago during COVID, I dropped a lot of weight, went down to about 180. And then some people know, some don't. In my personal life, I do a lot of like running events and stuff like that. Um, I wrecked on a triathlon last September. And after that wreck, I couldn't really, I had a knee injury and a shoulder injury, and I had to step back from working out. And so I gained back a bunch of weight. So now I'm really seeing that, and it's driving me nuts. So
Mm.
that's one of the first things here in Texas is I'm going to be building uh, the garage. I'm going to be turning the garage into a gym so I can get back to where I was because
Yeah, so
it
when
hurts.
you lost the weight, did you lose it primarily through exercise or did you diet
It was
or
both. It was a combination. I started running. I've been running every day for what since July 8th of 2020. I ran at least a mile every day. But then I started running 100 miles every month and just doing a lot of running. But then I also went on Weight Watchers with my wife because my wife went on Weight Watchers and we found the best way to do it. We both did it. And with both of us doing it, it worked really well. She dropped about 50 to 60 pounds and I dropped over 100, with running and the diet. But then once I got hurt, the diet kind of went out the window too, and stopped working out and kind of went into a little bit of a depression because of it. And
Mhm.
when you're depressed, you eat. So made some mistakes, and now I'm not happy with my body image, but I've got a plan hopefully to fix it.
So do you like you just when you're like about to have sex or when you're having sex, do you think about that body image or is
Yes,
that just something that you deal with? Okay, so you do.
I do. I do a lot. Um, it's tough. I mean, especially uh, it's hard for me because I don't find myself attractive. So it's hard for me to be like, how is she gonna find this attractive? I look in the mirror and I'm like, I just see disgustingness. Even when I dropped the weight, I still had issues, just because of the body dysmorphia. But um, it's tough, yeah, because I mean, it's like I feel my sex drive going down because I'm not, I don't feel, I don't know, I guess for lack of a better word, sexy. So
Right.
it's like, if I don't feel it, how is she gonna see it? So yeah.
That's too bad. I first was only asking women that, and then I realized, wait a minute, I need to ask men that too
Yeah,
because men are affected by that as well. It's
yeah,
unfortunate.
it is.
Um, Sexual bucket list. Have you done everything you wanted to do, or
No, I haven't. I mean, there's for the most part, yes, there's a lot of things that I did. In college, I had my girlfriend at the time was bi, so we had a lot of she had a relationship with her roommate that I got to be the third wheel on. It's one thing a lot of guys don't realize. A lot of times when it's a two girls and a guy, you're more of a spectator in some of those cases. So I have had those. I've had the two females and a man in both cases where the women were into each other, and other ones where they were both just kind of focused on me. They're fun. They're okay. But I've kind of one of my bucket list items is a threesome with two guys and a girl, but the bisexual type, if that makes sense.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That does make sense. Any sexual regrets?
Um, a few. I feel like it's tough to say this, but growing up in the 80s and 90s like I did, I do feel like maybe there's some sexual partners that I've had that I don't know if it was right, if that makes the right word, that if it
Mm-hmm,
was more kind of the image of how we believed sex was supposed to be at that time, like if the guy wants it, he just takes it.
mm,
Not in a like, you know
right.
what I mean, not in a rapey way, but in kind of a
Mm,
like, you know, the 80s and 90s where there's just some that I don't know if it was consent because they wanted it or consent just to say just okay then, if you know what I
right,
mean. And
right,
there are a few that I feel that nowadays I would there would have been more questions. I've
right.
always been the type that I've always believed, like I said, being raised by my sister, if someone says no, you're done. No matter where you are in the process. I mean, you could already be in whatever she says no, you stop, you're done. it's over, you know. But and so I've never crossed that line. But there's, some that I feel that, I should have questioned more. If that may, yeah, should have questioned more.
Right. I think all of us, I even think of like some guys that I worked with that I probably really like pushed them too hard. Like now they'd probably, it'd be sexual harassment. Well, we were young, we were dumb, and it was a different world.
It
So
was. It was a very different world. I mean, it was just kind of, and it's not, it's tough because you say that and everyone's like, oh, you're just making an excuse. It's like, it's not, I'm not trying to make an excuse. I'm saying that, now looking back on it, I feel,
right.
cringy about it a little bit, but there's nothing I can do to change it now. But at the time, we didn't see anything, that was just, if you wanted it, you made it obvious that you wanted it. And if they didn't say no, it was go time.
Well,
When
because
now
even
it's
when
more,
we wanted to say yes, we said no because
yeah,
we didn't want people to think we were a whore.
yeah, yeah. So
And so
it's
we
very,
said no, no, no until we were in the middle of doing it,
yeah,
and we didn't mean it. So,
yeah. It's like the song "Baby It's Cold Outside." That's
yeah.
pretty much how it was. I mean, you say, "Oh no," but it was that kind of, and
Uh-huh.
that was the hard part back then of trying to decide, okay, is this a real no or is this
Right.
a I don't want people to, yeah. So I mean, there are a few, like I said, some regrets where I have where I'm like, maybe I should have questioned more.
Right. Well, that's a very thoughtful, intelligent answer. I appreciate that. Do you have any good, like, dirty stories that you want to tell me real quick before we go?
Um, I don't know. I was trying to think if there are any. I mean, I can tell you the weirdest place I've ever had sex.
Okay.
It was actually at a concert, basically in the pit. It was up against the fence, like right at the front of the concert where the fence is. Um, no idea her name, no idea nothing. Just kind of we were, rubbing up against each other as you do in a concert, and all of a sudden she kind of took over for me, reached back, unzipped my pants, and did it right there in the middle of the middle of the concert. So
Yeah.
it's quite interesting. I mean, uh it was Thrill Kill Cold, so I mean that's kind of what you do at those concerts. But and then the other weirdest one would probably would have been a church. I
Sure.
was I get migraines really bad. I always have since I started when I was like 14. And I was at church with my parents, like I said, Mormon church. So it was like 5 hours long. Um, After we had sacrament, which is the first part, they leave the sacrament hall and it's just dark. So when I have a headache, I like a dark place. So I went and laid down um, in in there, and the one of the main people's daughters actually followed me in and decided to have a little fun. So, which I wasn't going to say no to.
Right.
I was like, okay, whatever. One of those weird things, like, and it was one of those weird ones because we never talked, we never like had any whatever. But I'm like, okay, you went, all right. I'm not going to say no. Hopefully, this will fix my headache. Let's see.
Huh. Well, yeah, a lot of times I think, like I always like to do sex in weird places, but my husband's not. He would just be mortified if he got caught, and that's all he could think about is how mortified he would be. But I don't know. One day I'm probably gonna sneak attack him somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, and see that's that my wife's the same way. She's one that's mortified of like like I said, I'm only the third guy she's ever been with, and the first two didn't have any like creativity. So she's like completely vanilla when we first got together. We've done a few interesting things. We did go one time to the sex centric place in Seattle, um, but nothing happened. We just kind of visited, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't think this is my thing." And I'm like, "Okay, if it's not your thing, then we won't push it." Um, so yeah, but the weirdest place we've done it was actually on the way back from a concert. I was falling asleep, and I'm weird. Like after orgasm, I actually wake up. It like gives me a bolt of energy. So
Hmm.
we pulled over to the side of the road and basically like just right there on the side of the freeway. So,
Well,
but
good. I'm glad the
yeah.
old girl's got some zippity doo dah in her.
Oh yeah, she does.
All right. So this is going to come out not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday. Do you have
Yeah.
anything you want to promote or anything like that?
Not that I can think of really. I mean, since I moved to Texas, I'm still trying to get in with the crowd down here.
Right.
I do have one show the 19th. I honestly don't remember where it is. It's somewhere on my calendar somewhere, but I'm, like I said, still trying to get in with that crowd. Other than doing the podcast that I do, my other podcasts,
Okay.
it's pretty much just been that's it. Just kind of, I've done like 2 open mics since I've been down here. So
Okay. So what is you got an Instagram?
I do. It's Mr. underscore B underscore 666, and Mr. spelled out Mister.
Okay. I'll put that under your picture. And then what's the name of your podcast?
I actually have 2. One of them's called Re-Nerdish. Me and Matt Gingrich, who's another comedian out there, we've actually been doing Re-Nerdish together for I think almost 7 years
How's he
so
doing, by the
far.
way?
He's doing really well. He bought a house in Maple Valley. He just, besides doing the podcast, he he just doesn't like the comedy scene. Him and the socializing and some of the people in the scene, just which is I have issues with that scene too. It's one of the reasons why
Right.
I never I only kind of dipped my toe in every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But he does really well. He's doing good. I mean,
Good.
both of his daughters just went to homecoming, so he's having a meltdown. But yeah.
So Renerdish
Um,
and
and then the other one's called NWCZ Radios Down the Rabbit Hole, and that's one where we talk conspiracy theories and true crime and stuff like that. So I just did an episode on Jack the Ripper, which was fun.
Sounds fun. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I love horror movies, as you can tell by the big, huge screen behind me. So
Yeah. Well, your studio looks great, and it was great seeing you. Your hair looks really good. I don't know what you're like, if you're using a new product or something.
I have been. I can't remember. It's like it's something for frizz. It's a frizz thing.
Whatever it
My
is,
hair.
it's working. Looks really good.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
all right. Well, it's good
All right.
seeing you.
Good to see you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.